This is the Uptick Newswire Stock Day podcast, sponsored by InvestorsHangout.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes and YouTube to stay up to date on penny stock news and interviews, public information on OTC, pink sheets, and microcap stocks from around the world, with your host, Everett Jolly.
On today's show, I'm really excited to have a returning guest. He was on my show back in May of 2018. We're talking about Dais Analytic Corp, trade on the OTCQB under the ticker symbol DLYT. And with us today is the CEO and president of the company, Mr. Tim Tangredi. Tim, welcome to the show.
Edward, thank you for having me back. Actually, this is the third time that I've been on.
Oh, well, all right, third time. Yeah. Give some of my new listeners a little bit of about statement of who you guys are, how you make your money, and then I want to get into the Q&A.
Absolutely. Dais generates growing revenues and profits from sales of products that include cleaning contaminated industrial wastewater, really, really aggressively dirty water. And at the same time, in the HVAC, heating, ventilating, and air conditioning industries, both two international behemoths that have all sorts of needs in terms of better performing products. And we do that with a product built around managing the features in a proprietary, patented, and we call it disruptive. I don't like the word, but it truly is disruptive. Nano-structured polymer. It's a piece of plastic that has features embedded in it. And by managing those features, you can do some incredible things. And we're applying those things to contaminated water and HVAC.
Well, you know, Tim, we host a lot of great leaders of small cap companies that come on my show. Most of them are very optimistic. They're supposed to be because, you know, they're the leader and CEO of that particular company. But investors want to see the leaders walk and talk the talk. And you joined me a couple times in 2018. You spoke optimistically about your company, its products, its growth, its potential. In short, will you please do me a summary of DLYT, past talks of the show, and maybe actual performances where you said, we're going to do XYZ, and we did do XYZ?
Sure, and I welcome that opportunity because I personally believe that there are far too many people that say a lot of things, and they should be called up short on it. But in this case, and I can't talk about the quarter that just ended because we haven't filed the documentation yet, but I'll make a comment about that at the end of this. Very simple. In the 4 quarters, since over the time period that we chatted, we said we were going to do some really good things. What we did is the revenues are up over 300%, and that's just in 2017 versus 2018.
Correct.
And for the last quarter, the third quarter, it's up over 350% from the third quarter of 2017 to the third quarter of 2018. But the better news is that not only did we do things in terms of the revenue numbers, the gross margins increased similarly in terms of percentages, and we see that as a trend that continues going forward, which is the best news to me.
Absolutely. You know, my team tells me that you guys have a strong presence there in the greater China market. What impacts have you seen and what do you see going forward? Give me maybe a trade issue between the two countries. Is that a problem since Donald Trump's taken over? Maybe just bring us up to speed on that.
Forget politics for a moment. In 2017, in November, the President of the United States met with the President of China, and he brought 29 CEOs from a field of over 97,000 candidates.
Right.
And little tiny Dais was one of those companies.
Wow.
And I got to meet the President of China, spend time with the President of the United States. And President Xi Jinping said at that meeting, he was very clear, he said, we have a mandate. There are 5 rules in the 19th Congress that we just laid out. If you work and you collaborate with companies in country and you focus on that, the governments will do their thing, but your cooperation will be stronger than whatever the government does. And I took those words literally, and I use those with Chinese counterparts, the people we work with, whether they're customers or will be customers. And we haven't seen any direct impact other than a tariff. One is a 25% tariff on a particular product. But other than that, we haven't seen an impact in terms of people changing their minds about doing business with Americans and saying, oh, I'm not going to work with the U.S. and that kind of thing. There's a fair amount of, I'll say, jovial poking about the whole thing. But right now, the sentiment is quite optimistic that there's going to be something that goes into place in the near future that'll be good for both groups. So we really haven't seen an issue.
The company that we're highlighting here today on Stock Day is Dais Analytic Corp. They trade on the OTCQB under the ticker symbol DLYT. With us today, you've been listening to Mr. Tim Tangredi. He's the CEO and president of the company. Tim, let me ask you this. What are some of the biggest obstacles that you're going to see here in the next 2 to 3 quarters, and how are you going to overcome those?
They're the same since Dais first put its proprietary material together that we call Aqualite. This, when you say nanotechnology, most people's eyes glaze over. Think of a piece of saran wrap, and inside of that saran wrap, it has some really, really unique items. You can't see them; they're so small, but that's the beauty of it. It's the same thing that's occurred in the past. It's always resources. The market is there, the manufacturing is there, the product is there. We're a small company. We need resources. And I'm not talking just money. Money is a huge thing, sure. But it's relationships, strategic relationships, the ability to go out and talk to people. I'm only one person, and there's another person that works on the business development side. But it's a small firm, and it really boils down to resource. And the key thing with this one, though, this is an interesting one to me. It's like a wave. You go through this, and you go look back, and you of all people can see this better than me. You could talk about biotech and people, we're going to make all this money. We're going to put all this money in biotech. The next one right now is cannabis. I'm going to put all this money in cannabis. Well, both of them have humongous regulatory issues that any kind of organization would face. And if you look at what we're doing in the water and HVAC, heating and cooling and ventilation space, we can save people money today, which everybody likes to do. We can do a lot of things in terms of better features, better product, better functionality. And yes, you can do a good thing for the environment. So for people who talk about the Green New Deal, I personally think that this country will, within the next 5 years, have some form of carbon tax. And you will be able to rake up, because Dais is already out there with a product. So to answer your question succinctly, it's resources. And what we're doing about it is we're pushing as hard as we can, showing people what we've done in the past and leveraging that both in the States and in China.
Since the last time you've been on the show, like I said, back in May, you came out with a press release, I think, 2 or 3 months ago, about an agreement with Haier Group. I was wondering to know if you could just kind of give us the rundown on that agreement and why it's so special to your company.
I'd love to. It's a really, for those people that would be old listening to this, and I say old euphemistically, you hear about the compact computer lunch where, a bunch of folks sat around in Texas and they drew on a napkin, and what came out of that was compact computer, a multi-billion-dollar company. We have this kind of lunch in Qingdao. Haier is a unique organization. It is run by a gentleman. You can pick up information at MIT and Harvard. He's always speaking about teams and innovation and how important it is. We were very fortunate to work with a really great bunch of people in the innovation team. We went to lunch, and we had a conversation. And if you open up a Haier refrigerator in Home Depot or Lowe's, and you see this purple, whitish little white block on the crisper drawer, that's us. And you say, well, how does that have to do with this plastic you're talking about?
Right.
Well, the plastic sits between the main cavity of the refrigerator and the crisper drawer, and it can equalize the humidity level and remove ethylene gas. So in the crisper drawer, when you put things in there, the first thing that happens is moisture starts to build up and it starts to decay what you have in that drawer. So your foods don't last as long and you end up throwing them out sooner. And some things put out an ethylene gas. By having that smart plastic in there, the plastic says, wait a second, the concentration inside of this drawer is much higher than outside of this drawer, so I'm going to let this go through this particular piece of membrane, and it's now into the general cavity of the refrigerator, and the refrigerator deals with it as it would with any other type of air. So the things in that drawer last longer, they taste better, and it's a simple thing, but people love the idea. It's very simple. There are no moving parts. Everything is done by the science that's embedded into this plastic. So Haier's moving that out into their huge base, and they sell out of 1 out of every 10 white goods in the world today. They're moving this into their base of refrigerators, and the contract for us is an 8-year agreement. It's mammoth. You're putting roughly about 3/4 of a square foot of our plastic in each one of those refrigerators, and there are quite a few millions of them. So it's very helpful for us.
In closing, we're running out of time today, Tim, but in closing, what would you want my listeners to take away from this interview?
We're running out of time, so I'm going to make it real simple. And it's not the pitch that this is the greatest thing. No, you'd have to look at it like you examine any other investment. But I would look at Dais, if I take myself away from being biased about it, from the perspective that, okay, look what's coming. And you just look at the interest level, whether it's positive or negative, that's been generated with the Green New Deal. Mm-hmm. You look at people always want to save money. They want to buy the best product, and that's what we have. And we've demonstrated that time and time again. So the stock price is low. It's a great investment, in my opinion, and that's me personally saying that. I would just say to the listeners, look at this and think about the future, because you're talking not only today, the future with your kids, my kids, your grandkids, the future generations. You're really moving out 3, 4, 5 generations in terms of what this material can do in the products that it's in.
If you're looking for a nanotechnology company, look no further. It's got its versatility. Look at Dais Analytic Corp. They trade on the OTCQB. You can find them under the ticker symbol DLYT. You can also go to their website, DAISANALYTIC.com. Tim, I want to thank you for stopping by. It's always a pleasure. Hopefully you'll come back on the show in 50 days and give us an update.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure to chat with you and Holly and the rest. Thank you.
This program is entirely sponsored and produced by Uptick Newswire, LLC, which is responsible for the content. The opinions and information provided on this program are those of the guests and those of the respective companies they represent, and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff or management of Uptick Newswire. Uptick Newswire encourages all listeners of this program to do their due diligence and research when determining investment strategies that will work for them, or to seek the assistance of an investment professional. The guests of this program may have paid for its distribution and are not directly affiliated with Uptick Newswire or this station.